I named this model Childhood. Like most of my works, it is made out of a single sheet of paper, just folded, no cuts or glue. When I was a child, I always wanted to be a fighter pilot. Yet 10 years ago, after 25 years of military service, I retired from the intelligence forces at the rank of lieutenant colonel. And this was about the time I decided I'm going to be an origami artist. Now, origami is about the ability to change a square sheet of paper into almost anything. It's a rare form of art in which you add nothing and you take nothing from the paper. You end with exactly what you started with. Look at the example of the works of Eric Joisel, for me maybe the greatest artist, origami artist who ever lived. From one paper he made the pangolin, and from the other he made a tree the pangolin stands on. Unfold this pangolin and you will get the same square sheet Eric started with. My first encounter with origami was with this. At 11 years old, 1977, a classmate went into class holding this. And at the moment he pulled the tail, the wing flapped. And just like the butterfly effect, my life changed. And this was the exact moment I was hooked on origami. And ever since, I'm always folding. Now, my mother was trying every possible workshop there was, from macrame to stained glass, even painting with ropes. And from her, I believe I got my artistic side. My father, well, he was the best handyman ever. He was capable of dismantling the oven, take out the heating component, replace it with a new one, and when he put everything back together, the oven started to work again, and there was no screw left outside. From him, I got the sense that if I have a packing knife in one hand and a super glue on the other, I can do anything. Now, for many years, I was a passive folder, following instructions from books. I did try my hand with creating my original models, but I failed quite miserably, I must say. I once tried to make a hummingbird and showed it to my wife, and she said, "Frankly, my dear husband, this is kind of an ugly head of an elephant." So I was afraid to fail again and stopped trying. But still, this is a partly collection of original models from my recent years. So how does a folder become a creator? My breakthrough was after a mistake. What you see here is the Star Path tessellation by Ralph Conrad. And when I tried to refold it, because we are origami people, we remember with our fingers, I got this mutation. Now, while he has 6-point stars in the center, my variation had hexagonal towers spread all over. So annoyed, I called Gila Oren, the lady who taught me the model, and I asked her, what did I do wrong? And she said, you did nothing wrong. You actually made a new tessellation. And that was a moment of revelation for me, because I realized I can easily make more mistakes. So my fear of trying to create was over. Now, at the age of 38, I was promoted to a lieutenant colonel. And just like any other officer at this rank, my vision was to become a full colonel. I was appointed as a unit commander with about 300 soldiers and officers. And although my day was fully packed with discussions, meetings, decision-making, drills, and exercise, I realized that the best moment of my day was when I logged into my Flickr account. And so that a 13-year-old from Wisconsin gave me a star on one of my latest models I just posted. Well done, Ilan, he wrote in the notes, and I felt so proud. 4 years later, I sat in front of my commander, and he told me quite dryly, Garibi, you will never be promoted. So my stomach clenched, but my face showed nothing of it. I realized it is time for me to retire. Now, for an officer in the army, retirement can evoke fear. It's a major blow to your ego. you lose your post, you lose your stature, you lose half of your salary. Moreover, high-ranking officers get the impression that anything they say will happen. Well, they are wrong. When you retire, if you want anything to happen, you have to actually do it yourself. But for me, the retirement was just like origami. You get a clean, fresh square sheet of paper, and you have endless opportunities. Now, please look at this slide. This image shows the other side of the model you just showed before. And when I saw this other side, I was much more excited than you are, because first, I designed only the first side, so I got this side for free, which is always nice. You make one, you get two. But more importantly, I felt so much joy out of the fact that this is my creation. I did this. And from that joy, I decided that I'm going to be an origami artist. Now, as an officer, we were trained when we start a new course to set a vision far ahead. And just like the North Star, it is supposed to guide you through your new journey. But you're not really supposed to reach this vision. Its only main function is to keep you on the right direction. But I decided I'm going to set my vision as far as high as possible. I decided that within 10 years, I'm going to be no less than the invited guest of the annual Japanese Origami Convention. So, how does a folder become an origami artist? The first step is to create as many as you can models, which I did. That was the easy part. Second step on my program was recognition. I was aiming to get the recognition of the origami world. Now, origami is about sharing, so I started to share diagrams of my designs. I started to attend conventions and teach models through workshops. I published articles in online magazines. I did everything I could to become famous in the origami world and get one step closer to my vision. But life had other plans for me. This is the pineapple tessellation with front light. Step 3 on my program was exhibitions. I started small in a library in my hometown, and then in a city nearby. But I knew I have to aim higher, and I have to reach the cultural center of Israel, which is Tel Aviv. Luckily, my brother knew a guy. This is how it works in Israel. So his name was Gal Gaon, and he just opened a design gallery in Tel Aviv. And the day we met was the day I appointed him as my mentor, which he still is until today. And he explained to me, because I did nothing about it, that a design gallery, unlike an art gallery, is more into useful items, like a table, a bowl, maybe a lamp. Now, this is the same tessellation you saw before, but this time with backlight. This is not a computer-generated image. It's just paper. So although paper is totally unuseful to become a table, it is very suitable to be a lampshade, as you can see the effect of light. So he asked me if I can design and make 4 lamps in 2 months' time to the opening of the gallery. Although I never did it before, but I knew that I have a packing knife at home and some super glue, so I said yes, of course. And while getting home, I remembered my father teaching me that the first tool you took to your hands when you start to make something is a pencil. So I drew my program, and within 2 months, I was capable to show 4 lamps, such as this. At the evening of the opening night, Albi Tsarfati, the owner of Aqua Creation, which is highly esteemed lighting studio in Israel, came and was very impressed by the beauty of the lampshades, and he was smart enough to ignore the craftsmanship of everything beside it. And he asked me if I want to join hands and design a lamp for him to be presented 5 months later in Milan Design Week. Now, I didn't really know what Milan Design Week means, but I said yes, of course. And 5 months later, I was standing by this lamp in what should be considered as the pinnacle of the design world in Milan, highly proud, but also quite confused, because you see, when you stand in Tel Aviv, Milan is to the west, but Japan is to the east. So this lamp will take me any closer to my vision. What is my vision now? Just to close a circle, 3 years ago, a new Japanese restaurant in Tokyo decided to decorate the place with those lamps. But back to Milan, I decided it is time to embrace a powerful concept, the concept of and. I'm going to be an origami artist and a designer. Now, at a certain point, there will be an unavoidable question. You will ask me, where is the money? Can you make a living out of origami? Now, for origami world, paper is almost everything. But for the design world, paper is not so useful. It's too weak, it's too common, it's too cheap. But since I'm a designer now, I realized maybe I should redefine what folding is. Instead of trying to enforce the paper to be strong enough to become a table, maybe I can fold materials that are used to make tables from. So I started to research every possible material that came in a sheet form. I started with wood, because wood is premature paper, after all. And I realized that if you use thin enough layers of wood, with the help of laser engraving, I can fold it just like paper. I also tried my hand with fabric, leather, plastic, cement, even clay, even glass. But what about metal? When I was a kid, I was smaller, thinner, and weaker than most. But I just knew that I have superpowers that will be released when I'm in a dire need. Like I'm under an upside-down bus, and I will suddenly have the power to bend the roads, the metal roads, and free myself and all the others. Now, as you can see, I never grew any formidable muscles. So I realized that if I want to fold metal, I have to outsmart the metal. I have to use my wit. So instead of trying to become stronger than the metal, all I need to do is to make sure that the crease lines are weaker than me. So in a way, I'm folding metal with my mind. This is a nice case of mind over matter, if you think of it. I started on a small scale with jewelries. I never did make any jewelries before, but you know me by now. I like to stand for a challenge. Those jewelry that you see, each of them is hand-folded from a single sheet of brass based on my paper designs. On a larger scale, I fold stainless steel at a substantial thickness of 1 millimeter with mirror finishing. And I fold it only slightly, so you get so many reflections from the surfaces. My work is kind of invisible, because when you look at it, you don't see the work itself, you see the reflections. In a way, it's kind of cheating, because every time you look at my work, all you see is yourself from so many angles. So you have to love that, of course. And since I'm a guy who likes to stand for a challenge, finally, after 7 years, my mentor asked me to make tables. Here are some tables made each from a single sheet of stainless steel, just folded, using my hands. We are not finished. Thank you. Please take a look at the far end of this 2 Michelin star restaurant. 10 years ago, I dreamed to become the invited guest of the Japanese annual origami convention. 6 years after, I was invited as an artist to install a commissioned work of metal origami at the bar of this restaurant. Now, as we get closer to the bar to see its beauty, I realized that getting too close to your vision means it doesn't function as your North Star anymore, and you have to push it away, farther away. Now, I'm the achiever type, and when I climb a mountain, I have to make sure it is higher than the one I climbed yesterday. So it is time for me to find and reach a higher peak to conquer. I call this model adulthood. Like most of my works, it is made out of a single sheet of paper, just folded, no cuts or glue. When I was a child, I always wanted to be a fighter pilot. Today, I'm a teacher. I teach origami for industrial designers. I'm the author of 4 books about origami and paper puzzles. I'm a jewelry maker, a designer, and an origami artist. In 2014, I was the invited guest in the Polish convention. A year later, in Italy, and 2017, it was France. Last year, Mexico. And this is how far a square sheet of paper can take you if you are fearless, flexible, and follow your vision. So just imagine how far your square sheet of paper can take you. Thank you.